In the heart of the mighty Valerian Empire stood the Arretium Palace, a sprawling monument of marble and gold. At its center sat Emperor Calon, the fourth man born into a legacy of conquerors, yet known for none of their virtues. His reign would be remembered for something far darker. Calon was crowned at 20, inheriting a kingdom at peace, wealthy from decades of expansion. He'd never tasted war or felt the weight of struggle. Instead, the empire insulated him with pleasure, and pleasure grew into an obsession. Court scholars called him a patron of the arts. Foreign ambassadors described him as a benevolent eccentric. But behind the velvet curtains, a different truth reigned. Calon filled his nights with feasts that spilled past dawn, music that drowned reason, and company chosen for amusement, not wisdom. The palace transformed from a center of governance into a theater of excess. At its heart sat the emperor, his charm masking a hollow restlessness. And the empire watched and waited and feared. While the palace glittered, the empire began to rust. Crops failed for 2 years in the western provinces. Trade with the northern tribes stalled. Tax collectors returned empty-handed, and yet the palace treasury emptied faster every season. But Calon, wrapped in silk, was unwilling to see it. His ministers, once respected statesmen, had learned that truth displeased him, and displeasing the emperor meant dismissal, exile, or worse. So they whispered instead. In alcoves, behind carved pillars, they spoke their fears. He spends the treasury as if it's bottomless. If we speak up, he will silence us. These murmurs traveled through the palace like smoke unseen, but felt everywhere. For now, Calon remained the sun around which they all orbited. But suns could collapse, and when they did, they dragged entire galaxies into darkness. Among all who lived in the palace, none held more influence over Calon than Lady Seraphine. She was not a queen, not an empress, not even of noble blood. She had been a gifted musician, discovered by Calon during a royal tour. He brought her to the palace not as a concubine, but as a companion, a counselor of the heart. The only one who could speak to him without fear. Calon often reclined beside her, his heavy crown discarded. With her, he became human. "The empire is changing," she told him one winter night. "Your people grow restless. Your ministers are afraid. They do not confront you because they do not believe you will hear." Calon's jaw tightened. "I give them peace, prosperity, a world without war. You give them spectacle," she replied gently. He looked away, unable to meet her gaze. Seraphine knew he wasn't cruel, merely lost. A man crowned too young, surrounded by wolves in silk clothing, fleeing responsibility by drowning in indulgence. If only she could guide him back. Every year, Calon hosted a grand masquerade, the Night of Masks. Once, it celebrated unity. Under Calon, it became a vast display of opulence for the wealthy and the wicked. This year's masquerade eclipsed all before it. The palace was a labyrinth of tapestries and lanterns. Guests arrived in jeweled masks, cloaked in feathers and arrogance. Musicians played until their fingers bled. Kalan sat on his throne, a golden cup in hand, as admirers praised his generosity. But each compliment grated on him. They wanted his wealth, not his wisdom, his indulgence, not his leadership. Seraphine approached him, her mask pale silver. "Kalan," she said under the roar of music, "the palace is drowning." He frowned. "In what? In excess?" Her quiet words pierced deeper than any accusation. Before he could answer, a nobleman stumbled forward, shouting drunken praises. The emperor forced a smile, but inside, something cracked a splinter in a dam long on the verge of breaking. While the emperor reveled, the empire burned. In the western province of Drathian, famine had pushed farmers to desperation. Their pleas were dismissed. At last, the people rose. It began with a torch lit against a tax office. By morning, a rebellion had a leader, a former soldier named Tarek, who had served under Kalan's father. Tarek understood something the emperor had forgotten: a starving empire will not kneel forever. The ministers brought reports of the uprising to Kalan, but he waved them away. "They are merely unruly peasants," he said. "Tarek seeks attention, nothing more." "Our forces are thin," warned a general. "If this rebellion spreads, it will not," Kalan interrupted. It was the first time they saw madness flicker behind the emperor's eyes, and it terrified them. Days passed. The rebellion grew. Seraphine found Kalan alone, staring at murals of his forebearsmen who had led armies and united kingdoms. Their stone gazes seemed to judge him. "You must act," she urged. "Go to Drathian. Speak to your people. Show them their emperor is not lost in celebration." Kalan closed his eyes. "I cannot." "Why?" His voice cracked. "Because I do not know how to lead them. I never have." The confession tore through her. "Then learn," she whispered. "Become what they need." But he shook his head, consumed by fear. "I would rather remain here. Here I am safe. Here they cannot see my weakness." Seraphine realized with horror that the palace had not corrupted him. It had imprisoned him. The rebellion struck the capital without warning. Tarek's forces, now tens of thousands strong, marched on Valaria. Villagers joined them. Towns opened their gates. Soldiers abandoned their posts. The empire had turned on its emperor. Chaos erupted in the palace. Ministers fled, servants vanished. Kalan, tasting real panic for the first time, ordered the musicians to keep playing. "Let them see." He insisted that the emperor fears nothing, but fear radiated from every corridor. The palace of indulgence now felt like a tomb. Seraphine found him in the throne room. "They are coming," she said. "You must face them." Kalan trembled. "I cannot. Then everything you built will be ashes." He looked at her and whispered, "Stay with me. I do not want to die alone." Her heart broke. "You will not die," she replied, "but you must rise." By dawn, the rebels reached the palace gates. Tarek stood at their head, his eyes hardened by loss. He had not come for vengeance, but for justice. The guards surrendered without a fight. Tariq entered the grand hall, a wasteland of spilled wine and broken instruments. And on the throne, Kalan sat not regal, not defiant, but defeated. Seraphine stood beside him. Tariq approached. "Emperor Kalan," he said, his voice echoing. "Your empire falls, not because we wished it, but because you abandoned it." Kalan's voice was a whisper. "What will you do with me?" Tariq's expression was unreadable. "That depends on what you do now." Silence filled the hall. Kalan looked at Seraphine. "What should I do?" he asked. "Stand," she said. He rose on trembling legs. "Speak," she said. He opened his mouth, but no words came. "Lead," she said. But he could not. And in that moment, the fate of the empire sealed itself. Kalan surrendered the throne at sunrise. Tariq allowed him to live, but stripped him of everything. He was escorted to a remote monastery in the mountains, where only silence remains silence, in which a fallen emperor could finally reflect. Seraphine visited him one last time. "I'm sorry," he said, "for everything." She touched his cheek. "You were not evil, Kalan, only lost. And a lost emperor can lose an empire." They held each other for a long moment, two souls bound by fate, but severed by consequence. The memory of Kalan's reign lingered like perfume in an abandoned room, sweet, intoxicating, and suffocating. Years later, historians would write many things about Emperor Kalan IV. Some called him a fool, some a victim, some the emperor who drowned his palace in debauchery. But Seraphine remembered him differently. She remembered a lonely young man wrapped in silk because no one taught him to wear armor. A boy crowned before he learned to be a man. A ruler who mistook pleasure for peace and isolation for safety. She remembered a man who could have been great had he not been so terrified of disappointing the world that he hid behind gold walls until they collapsed upon him. And sometimes, in the quiet evenings, she would play her harp, wondering if Kalan, far away in the mountains, might hear faint echoes of the song that once tied them together. And perhaps, in the stillness of his exile, he did. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales from history and legend. See you next time.